Sir, can you confirm your name and security company again?
Jenkins.
Global Security.
I already told your partner everything.
We're here regarding an incident reported this morning involving a Miss Anya Sharma. Can you describe your interaction with her in detail?
She was trying to bypass the visitor log. I was just doing my job. She got agitated.
The fluorescent hum of the executive floor, usually a beacon of quiet industry, was shattered by a confrontation that would echo through corporate boardrooms and legal chambers for years. This was not a clash of titans, but a chilling display of unchecked authority, where a security guard, empowered by a badge and a uniform, chose to see a threat where there was only a CEO. Meet Arthur Finch, not an officer of the law, but private security guard whose record, according to internal company documents later unsealed, contained no fewer than 11 formal complaints. 11! Complaints ranging from excessive force during a minor trespassing incident to repeated instances of verbal harassment against building tenants. This was not an isolated incident. It was a pattern, a disturbing predisposition to aggression. His target that day was Dr. Anya Sharma, CEO of Stratagem Innovations, a global leader in sustainable energy solutions. Dr. Sharma, a woman who had navigated the cutthroat world of venture capital and international markets, built an empire from the ground up, and commanded respect from Davos to Silicon Valley, was treated not as the architect of her company's success, but as an unwelcome intruder in her own domain. Her credentials, her very identity, were dismissed with contempt that defied logic and professional courtesy. Before we delve deeper into the harrowing details of this incident, where are you watching from? Drop a comment below. Let us know your city, your state, your country. Your engagement fuels our work, reminding us that these stories, though specific in their details, resonate universally. We're here to shine a light on the abuse of power, no matter its uniform, and to empower you with the knowledge that accountability is not just a hope, but a demand. The morning of October 17th, 2023, dawned in San Francisco with a characteristic chill, the kind that bites through even a tailored suit. A low fog, thick and persistent, clung to the bay, obscuring the Golden Gate Bridge and muting the vibrant city skyline. Inside the sleek, glass-encased tower of Stratagem Innovations, located at the nexus of Market and First Street, the atmosphere was typically one of controlled dynamism. The building, a monument to modern architecture, hummed with the quiet energy of hundreds of brilliant minds at work, its polished chrome and gleaming marble reflecting the muted light of the overcast sky. Dr. Anya Sharma was, by any measure, an extraordinary individual, a prodigy in renewable energy engineering. She had earned her Ph.D. from Stanford University at the remarkably young age of 24. Her doctoral thesis, a groundbreaking exploration into advanced photocatalytic materials for hydrogen production, had been published in Nature and Science, catapulting her into the upper echelons of scientific innovation. She then pivoted, seamlessly transitioning from the laboratory to the boardroom, applying her rigorous analytical skills and visionary leadership to found Stratagem Innovations. Under her decade-long stewardship, the company had grown from a garage startup to a multinational corporation valued at over $12 billion, responsible for powering entire cities with clean energy solutions. She was a Forbes 30 Under 30 alumna, a recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom for her contributions to climate science, and had recently been appointed to the United Nations Expert Panel on Sustainable Development. Her office, a sprawling penthouse suite on the 48th floor, offered panoramic views of the city she had helped to green. Dr. Sharma didn't just earn her position. She forged it, brick by intellectual brick, with an unwavering commitment to a better future. Arthur Finch, on the other hand, represented a stark contrast. Employed by Sentinel Guard Security, a third-party contractor providing services to Stratagem Innovations, Finch's career trajectory was marked not by accolades, but by a consistent and troubling pattern of misconduct. His internal personnel file, later subpoenaed during discovery, painted a disturbing picture. In April 2021, Finch received a formal written reprimand for an incident involving an elderly tenant attempting to re-enter the building after forgetting their access card. Finch had allegedly shoved the tenant, caused them to stumble, and then refused to admit them until a manager intervened, despite the tenant verbally identifying themselves and their apartment number. The reprimand cited unnecessary physical contact and unprofessional conduct. Just 7 months later, in November 2021, A second complaint was filed. This time, Finch was accused of detaining a delivery driver for nearly 45 minutes, demanding to inspect every package and making derogatory remarks about the driver's ethnicity, despite the driver possessing all necessary clearances and identification. The complaint, filed by the delivery company, led to a 3-day suspension without pay for Finch, with stern warning about racial profiling and abuse of authority. A third incident, in February 2023, involved Finch aggressively confronting a group of high school students on a supervised field trip, mistaking their animated discussion for disruptive behavior. He allegedly yelled at the students, confiscated the student's phone, and threatened to call the police for loitering, despite their teacher presenting a valid school permit for the visit. This resulted in a mandatory retraining session on conflict de-escalation and public relations. The pattern was clear. Finch possessed a propensity for misinterpreting situations, escalating minor interactions, and exercising authority with an unsettling mix of prejudice and aggression. He was a ticking time bomb in a uniform, waiting for the right moment to detonate. The incident itself began with a call, not from within Stratagem Innovations, but from a neighboring building security desk. At approximately 9:15 a.m., a dispatcher relayed a vague report of suspicious activity involving a disheveled woman attempting to gain unauthorized access to the executive floors of the Stratagem Tower. The description was generic, imprecise, and, as later evidence would prove, heavily biased. It was a description that could have fit anyone or no one, yet it primed Finch for confrontation. Dr. Sharma, meanwhile, was engaged in an entirely mundane, legitimate activity. She had just returned from an early morning off-site board meeting at a sister company across town. Due to a minor issue with her executive car service, she had opted to walk the final few blocks, enjoying the crisp morning air, her hair slightly tousled by the bay breeze, her usual impeccably tailored blazer draped over her arm as she carried a leather portfolio. She was not disheveled. She was simply a busy professional, momentarily caught between engagements, walking into her own building through the employee entrance on the ground floor, just as she often did. She scanned her executive access card, displaying the highest level of clearance, and proceeded toward the private elevator bank reserved for executive staff. Should officers, or in this case, security personnel, be mandated to verify credentials and context before initiating any form of confrontation or detainment? Or is the mere suspicion, however vague, enough to justify an immediate challenge? As Dr. Sharma approached the executive elevators, Arthur Finch, having received the vague dispatch, was already positioned near the secured turnstiles, his posture rigid, his eyes scanning. He had observed Dr. Sharma's entry, noted her slightly informal appearance compared to usual corporate uniform, and immediately fixated on her. Without a word, he stepped directly into her path, blocking her access to the elevator. "Hold it right there," Finch barked, his voice jarringly loud in the hushed lobby. Dr. Sharma, startled, paused, her expression shifting from focused concentration to mild confusion. "Excuse me," she responded, a hint of polite inquiry in her tone. "Who are you, and where do you think you're going?" Finch demanded, his hand, already resting on the radio, clipped to his belt. Dr. Sharma, accustomed to a level of respect commensurate with her position, calmly held up her ID badge, which clearly displayed her photo, name, and the title CO, Stratagem Innovations. The badge glowed with the highest security clearance indicator. "I'm Dr. Sharma, the CEO. I just scanned in. I'm heading to my office." Finch barely glanced at the badge. His eyes, cold and dismissive, remained fixed on her face. "Anyone can fake that. And you don't look like no CEO I've ever seen. You look like you just rolled out of bed." His tone dripped with contempt, his gaze lingering on her slightly wind-blown hair and the portfolio in her hand. "I assure you, I am Dr. Sharma," she reiterated, her voice now firm, a thread of irritation entering her composure. "My card granted me access. My office is on the 48th floor. You can confirm my identity with anyone in this building or simply check the access logs." Finch scoffed. "Access logs mean nothing. I got a report of a suspicious person matching your description trying to get into the executive area. You're not going anywhere until I verify who you really are, and I'm going to need you to step aside and wait." He gestured aggressively towards a desolate waiting area near the service entrance. "I have a critical video conference scheduled in 5 minutes," Dr. Sharma stated, her patience wearing thin. "This is my building. I am the CEO. I do not need to wait for you to verify my identity. You can call my executive assistant, Maria Rodriguez, right now. Her number is on the directory." "You'll wait where I tell you to wait," Finch retorted, his voice rising, drawing the attention of several employees who had just exited the main elevators. Whispers began to ripple through the lobby. Finch, seemingly emboldened by the gathering audience, puffed out his chest. "I'm security. I decide who comes and goes. And you, ma'am, are currently a security risk." At this point, a young associate from the legal department, Sarah Chun, who had been observing the escalating confrontation, recognized Dr. Sharma. Her eyes widened in disbelief. She knew Finch's reputation. Without hesitation, Sarah pulled out her phone and began discreetly recording. Another employee, a senior engineer, stepped forward, attempting to intervene. "Mr. Finch, that's Dr. Sharma. I work directly for her. This is completely unnecessary." Finch rounded on the engineer. "Stay out of this or you'll be next. This is a security matter." The situation teetered on the brink of becoming physically hostile. Just then, the doors of the main entrance swished open, and a figure entered, an impeccably dressed man in a dark suit, flanked by 2 other individuals. It was Marcus Thorne, Strategem's general counsel, accompanied by 2 members of Dr. Sharma's personal security detail, who had been alerted by Maria Rodriguez after Dr. Sharma failed to appear for her scheduled call. Thorne's expression, usually calm, was a mask of furious disbelief. He took in the scene. Dr. Sharma, visibly distressed, being aggressively accosted by Finch, while a small crowd of employees watched horrified. Thorne wasted no time. His voice, though low, carried an undeniable authority that cut through the tension. "Finch, what in God's name do you think you're doing?" He moved swiftly, placing himself between Finch and Dr. Sharma. "You are to step away from Dr. Sharma immediately. Your badge and weapon are to be surrendered to me right now." The immediate resolution was swift and decisive. Arthur Finch, stunned by the sudden appearance of General Counsel Thorne and the 2 imposing security personnel, visibly faltered. The authority he had so brazenly wielded minutes before evaporated. Under Thorne's unyielding gaze, Finch reluctantly unclipped his security badge and, with trembling hands, removed the holstered sidearm from his belt, handing them over. Within minutes, he was escorted off the premises by Strategem's internal security. His employment with Sentinel Guard security effectively terminated on the spot. The sense of controlled chaos in the lobby slowly subsided, replaced by a palpable tension and a shared disbelief among the witnesses. Dr. Sharma, though physically unharmed, was visibly shaken, retreating to her office with Thorne and her security detail. But the incident did not end there. It merely began a new, far-reaching chapter. Should security personnel, especially those with a documented history of complaints like Arthur Finch, face automatic, immediate termination for such egregious abuses of power, particularly when directed at the very leadership they are contracted to protect? Or do companies have a responsibility to offer progressive discipline, even when the pattern is clear and the harm is undeniable? The discreet video recording made by Sarah Chun, the legal associate, became the spark that ignited a social media inferno. Uploaded anonymously to a private employee group chat, it quickly leaked to Twitter, now X, and TikTok. Within hours, the hashtags #CEO_harass and #FinchFolly were trending nationally. The footage, raw and unedited, showed Finch's aggressive posture, his dismissive hand gestures, and his contemptuous language directed at Dr. Sharma. It captured the incredulity of the bystanders and the abrupt, authoritative intervention of General Counsel Thorne. By the end of the day, the video had garnered over 15 million views across platforms, with millions more on Instagram and Facebook. News outlets, from the Wall Street Journal to CNN, picked up the story, dissecting the footage, interviewing Stratagem employees who corroborated Finch's history, and questioning the vetting processes of private security firms. The narrative was clear: a powerful, accomplished woman of color, a CEO, subjected to blatant disrespect and potential profiling by a low-level security guard. Stratagem Innovations responded swiftly and unequivocally. Within 24 hours, the company issued a public statement condemning the unacceptable and discriminatory conduct of Arthur Finch and announcing the immediate termination of their contract with Sentinel Guard Security, effective immediately. They also confirmed that Dr. Sharma had initiated a civil lawsuit against Arthur Finch personally and against Sentinel Guard Security for assault, battery, false imprisonment, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and racial discrimination. The claims were meticulously detailed. The intentional act of blocking Dr. Sharma, the verbal aggression, the dismissal of her legitimate credentials, and the implied threat of physical detainment. The legal battle that ensued was intense, but ultimately short-lived. Faced with overwhelming video evidence, witness testimony, and Finch's damning internal complaint record, Sentinel Guard Security quickly moved to settle. In December 2023, just 2 months after the incident, a settlement was reached. Sentinel Guard Security agreed to pay Dr. Anya Sharma a staggering $6 million. It was at the time one of the largest settlements ever awarded in a case involving a private security guard's misconduct against a corporate executive, underscoring the severity of the institutional failures that enabled Finch's behavior. As for Arthur Finch, his professional life as a security guard was irrevocably over. His termination letter from Sentinel Guard Security, later released as part of the public record, stated, "Your employment is terminated effective immediately for gross misconduct, violation of company policy, and conduct unbecoming a security professional, specifically regarding the incident involving Dr. Anya Sharma on October 17, 2023. Furthermore, the State Licensing Board for Private Security Personnel, prompted by a formal complaint from Stratagem Innovations, initiated an investigation. Citing his repeated violations and the severity of the incident with Dr. Sharma, the board permanently decertified Finch, revoking his license to operate as a security guard in the state of California. His career, built on the premise of protection, ended in disgrace, a testament to the consequences of unchecked power. Months later, at a specially convened press conference addressing the systemic issues brought to light by her ordeal, Dr. Anya Sharma delivered a powerful, resonant testimony that reverberated far beyond the corporate world. Her voice, calm but unwavering, articulated profound implications of what had transpired. "If this can happen to me," she declared, her gaze sweeping across the assembled journalists, "a CEO in my own building, a building I literally helped design with all the resources and privileges that come with my position, then what happens to those without such platforms? What happens to the countless individuals, particularly women of color, who face similar, or even worse, indignities every single day in countless public and private spaces, with no cameras rolling, no legal team at their disposal, and no public spotlight to hold their aggressors accountable?" Her words were a stark reminder that her experience, while unique in its specifics, was emblematic of a pervasive societal problem. She continued, "This was not merely an isolated incident of a rogue guard. This was a failure of training, a failure of oversight, a failure of accountability, and a failure to recognize inherent bias. It was a stark demonstration that even the highest levels of professional achievement cannot shield one from the indignity of prejudice and the abuse of authority. Should an incident of this magnitude, exposing such a clear pattern of discriminatory behavior and institutional negligence by a private security firm, trigger a federal investigation into the licensing and oversight standards for private security contractors nationwide? Or is it sufficient for state-level actions and civil lawsuits to address these systemic vulnerabilities? The internal investigation conducted by Stratagem Innovations, in conjunction with an independent review panel, unearthed deeply troubling findings regarding Sentinel Guard Security's operational practices. The report, publicly released, highlighted several systemic failures, inadequate background checks that failed to fully flag Finch's prior disciplinary issues, insufficient de-escalation training, a culture that tacitly permitted aggressive behavior, and a complete absence of meaningful oversight for guards working at high-profile corporate locations. The review concluded that Sentinel Guard's complaint resolution process was woefully deficient, effectively allowing problematic employees like Finch to continue their patterns of misconduct with minimal repercussions. In the wake of these devastating findings and facing immense public pressure, Sentinel Guard Security announced a series of sweeping reforms. These included a complete overhaul of their hiring and vetting procedures, mandating enhanced psychological evaluations for all new recruits, implementing a new zero-tolerance policy for discriminatory behavior, and establishing a robust, independent internal affairs department to handle complaints with transparency and impartiality. Furthermore, they committed to investing millions in advanced de-escalation and cultural competency training for their entire workforce, with specific modules addressing unconscious bias and respectful interaction with diverse populations. The company's CEO, in a public apology, acknowledged a profound breach of trust and vowed to transform Sentinel Guard into a model of ethical and professional security services. This incident, however, is more than just a cautionary tale about a single rogue security guard or a negligent security firm. It is a searing indictment of a broader systemic flaw. The alarming ease with which prejudice can override objective evidence, even in environments where high-level professionals operate. Arthur Finch did not see Dr. Anya Sharma, the accomplished EO. He saw a disheveled woman matching a vague, biased description, and his preconceived notions, fueled by a history of unaddressed aggression, allowed him to dismiss her credentials, her identity, and her inherent right to be in her own workplace. The consequences were profound. A CEO publicly humiliated, a major corporation forced to terminate a long-standing contract, a security guard stripped of his livelihood, and a multi-million-dollar settlement that ultimately came from a company that failed to adequately train and supervise its employees. The challenge now is not just to punish individuals, but to dismantle the systems that enable such abuses. What changes, truly, when the headlines fade and the outrage cools? This incident begs for a national conversation. Should there be a federal registry for security guards with multiple complaints, accessible by all employers, preventing problematic individuals from simply moving from one firm to another? Should security firms be subject to more rigorous federal licensing and oversight, similar to law enforcement agencies, especially when operating in critical infrastructure or high-profile corporate settings? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. We're not stopping here. This story, like so many others we bring to you, is a vital reminder that accountability is a continuous struggle. It's about demanding justice, pushing for reform, and ensuring that no one, regardless of their position or background, is subjected to the indignity of prejudice and the abuse of power. It's about all of us standing together to ensure that the promise of safety and respect is extended to every single person,